a video on Pontack sauce. Pontack, is that how you say it? It's Pontack sauce. It's basically an elderberry sauce. So I wanted to have a go at it. Someone that I follow on Instagram, and he follows me back, made some, and I was kind of thinking, I'll have a go at that because I made elderflower cordial and it's delicious. So, and I know that there's elderberry wine. So obviously we can use them for elderberries for something. Yes, and I was also listening to something, and they were saying that the red wine used to be doctored with elderberries for whatever reason. Maybe to bulk it out. Maybe, I don't know. But anyway, so we'll see how many I've picked. I've picked 2 lots, but the first lot was a bit not as good. So they're just not quite as nice. And there's some green ones in there and all that kind of stuff. So let's pick the nicer ones. I've just put them in a little bit of water, and I seem to remember that we can remove them from the stalks by running a fork through the berries like so. And there we go. That works kind of quite well, doesn't it? So we can do that, and then the stalks are left behind and the berries are just left there. And then I think we just have to, if some of the stalks come through, we'll just have to pick through the berries and just pick out stalks. And then what we'll do is we'll have a pick through them. So that's alright, isn't it? That kind of works. That's better than picking on them by hand. So then we'll just go through them, and if there's some that's still on the stalks, we'll kind of throw those away. The stalks are apparently a little bit poisonous, so we will discard those. So I think what we'll do is we'll do one of these at once, do them into the bowl, and then have a sort through what's in the bowl, and then put those in a fresh container. And then we're not doing them all and then sorting them all, because that would just like a huge task. Whereas to do that one at a time, just to quickly look through and see if there's any extra bits of stalk, then we'll do that. So, and then I'll have a look at the recipe and how many berries we've got, and kind of like work out how much of things that we're going to put in. So there is shallots. I'm not going to use shallots. I'm going to use red onions and some cider vinegar and some allspice berries and some crackback pepper. And there's a lot of cooking involved, but we'll kind of get to that when we sort through all these berries. There we go. So there's lots of different recipes online for this sauce. So if that's the case, then there's no set recipe. However, I did notice that there are 1 or 2 things that are pretty set about it, and it's the ratio of berries to vinegar. The types of vinegars vary: balsamic, white wine vinegar, sherry vinegar, lots of different types, red wine vinegar, or one recipe even kind of said claret, so meaning wine. Well, I don't think claret vinegar. So same amount of berries to vinegar. This is my homemade red wine vinegar. One recipe was half white wine vinegar and half balsamic vinegar. So I kind of thought, well, if that's kind of and someone because of the claret, I just kind of thought, well, let's just use red wine vinegar. It's nice, but I don't think it's going to add a different flavour to it. But I think the vinegar aspect is the most important bit. You know, the more things we kind of add. So some recipes were white sugar, some other recipes were brown sugar. So each one of these kind of little steps will add a little bit of flavour to it. So if we use brown sugar, it's going to create a malty kind of flavour to it. Not malty, but like a caramel kind of flavour to it. So there's what we basically we could use a white vinegar and white sugar and let the flavour of the berries come through, or we can add to it. And there's different consensus about spices and things, and shallots, but I'm going to use red onions. But anyway, so there's about 670 grams worth of berries, and there's 670 millilitres of vinegar, and then we need to slowly cook that in a low oven for about between 4 and 6 hours, depending on which recipe you kind of listen to. So let's just pick those green ones out. So let's do 6 hours. I need to have the oven on anyway for something else, so slowly cook them down in a low oven. I'm saying 100 degrees. What does it even go to? Oh, we could put it on 50. We'll put it on 100. We'll put it on 100 and we'll kind of see what happens. Probably foil's not the best idea because we're dealing with an acid and it might eat into the foil. But we'll see what it's like when it's finished after 6 hours. We've had about 5.5 hours. Let's have a look. I've kind of decided what I'm going to do with this. I was having a think and decided what I'm going to do. Well, we'll have to have a look at it first. But, so that can go off. We don't need it on anymore. So let's have a look. Let's have a look. Okay, so we have lost volume of liquid. So that's okay. So we've lost kind of quite a bit. Let's get a spoon. Have a look. So that's okay, isn't it? So I was thinking that the consistency of this sauce, I don't think it's going to be very thick. Most of the recipes kind of say put onion in and then kind of strain it out. But I was kind of thinking what we'll do is we'll put some, well, shallots, that's what it said, but I'm going to use red onions. We'll puree the onions into it and give it a little bit of body, I think. Right, so I'm going to leave, it's late now, it's like 12 o'clock at night, so I'm going to leave those just to steep overnight, and then we'll do something with them on. It's not going to jellify that, I don't think there's much pectin in it at all, but it tastes like reduced red wine. So I could see how elderberries have been used to doctor wine in the past, and I could see how they potentially make a nice wine. Because they're very rich, considering that's got vinegar in it. And it tastes like, so when you make a red wine sauce, what you do is you take red wine and you boil it rapidly and boil the alcohol off and then reduce it so it intensifies the flavour. That's what it tastes like. Slightly vinegary and red winey. So that's kind of quite interesting. So we need to sieve it to get rid of any kind of stalks and the skins from the fruit. But I think we need to push the fruit through a sieve, and then we'll get a little bit of pulp out of it. And if there's seeds in the centre, there will be seeds, won't there? Seeds in the centre there's a seed in the centre. We'll sieve those out as well. So we'll have to see. But I think leaving the onions in and pureeing them into the sauce will give it some body. And I think how I'll do that is we'll save some of the vinegar, strain some of the vinegar out, and then we'll use that vinegar to cook the onions, puree those onions, and then add the rest of the stuff to it, then reduce it with the spices, and then we can just push it through a sieve. If we blend it, if we don't blend it before we put the spices in, we'll end up blending the spices, which I don't want to do. I just want to crush the spices and then put them, and then have the onions already blitzed, and then it'll pass through a sieve a lot easier. That's my kind of thought at the moment, but that'll be tomorrow. So we'll let that steep overnight, and it will improve its flavour slightly. If things are left overnight, don't have to. I think you're supposed to do it straight away, but you know, we throw out the rule books in this kitchen. So I think I've decided what I'm going to do. We've got 300 grams worth of red onions in that pan, and that's just the juice from the cooked berries, so the berry juice and the vinegar. We're going to cook those down first, and then what we're going to do is we're going to puree that, and so it's going to bulk out the sauce, because I can't, what's the point in adding the onions only to strain them out? That's my kind of thought. And we kind of need to cook those and puree those down first, because we're going to add the spices into it as well, and we kind of need to think about not trying to puree those and put them through a sieve. So I think it's better to cook these first, and then we'll kind of see. Now, do we squish the berries through a sieve, or do we? I need to move the lead. Do we squish the berries through a sieve, or do we puree the berries and then put them through a sieve? So I'm not entirely sure. I kind of want the. If there's any pulp in there, I want the pulp. So I think we'd be better off squishing them. Yeah, I think there's not going to be that much pulp that comes out of the berries, and I think we're going to need the bulk of the pulp from the onions to kind of like make this a thicker sauce. I don't want it to be a thin sauce. So let's get the hand blender. We'll puree these down and put it through a sieve. I'll puree it first, and then you can kind of see what comes through the sieve. So I pureed it with hand blender. So we'll push it through a sieve, and then what will be left is the seeds in the sieve, and all the rest of the stuff will have gone through. It might have a lot of pectin in this, so it might start to naturally jellify. But let's see what. Oh, that's okay. We're getting some pulp going through, so that's okay. So sieving things is a bit of a pain in the bum, if I'm honest. But going to sieve it. It's going to be difficult to sieve it later on. We're not going to get all of that onion through the sauce, and I kind of want that to, so we don't have to unnecessarily reduce the sauce down to nothing. I want some kind of consistency to the sauce. So we'll have all the seeds, and then what we'll do is when those onions are cooked, we'll puree up the onions, put those through a sieve, and then we'll take the two mixtures, that mixture with the pureed onions in, and then we'll add the ginger and the spices, and we'll cook that, and then pour it through a sieve for a third time to get rid of the bits of spices and the ginger, and then we'll be left with a smooth sauce. I don't know if it's got to be a smooth sauce, unless we leave the onions in, and the onions are. I should have done some more research, shouldn't I? Instead of just winging it and making it up my own way. Anyway, which is pretty much what I do in life. So how's this taste from underneath? So that's an alright consistency, isn't it? So we've got a little bit of consistency to it. Tastes alright. We'll see what it's like when it's got the spices in and it's got some sugar in it. So you see how I'm sieving. This is how we sieve. So I'll do, when the onions are cooked, we'll do exactly the same thing, and then combine everything together. You don't need to see me pureeing the onions down, because that won't be that interesting, will it? There we go. As long as we get as much of that through as possible, we should be okay. Cooked and pureed the onions, put them through the sieve, and then I have smashed up. What did I smash up? About a dessert spoonful of cracked black pepper. Smash that up in a pestle and mortar, and then about 6 allspice berries and about 3 cloves, and I put in half a nutmeg. 15 grams of, about 30 grams of ginger, which I just smashed up and put in there as well. So when we put it through the sieve again, we'll have got all the flavour from those things that we put in, but none of the grittiness from them. That's my plan. Anyway, and then we've got teaspoon worth of rock salt and 200 grams worth of dark brown sugar. So let's add that in now, and then we'll reduce it a bit, get it up to temperature, reduce it a bit, and I can see what happens. And then we'll strain it through the sieve once we've tasted it. I don't know how thick this sauce is going to be. I don't know how thick this sauce is supposed to be. So we'll strain it through again, and then I've got some jars in the back of the stove, which are just sterilising in some water. So we'll have to see what it turns out like. So is that sugar? Sugar's almost melted. So we'll taste it now and we'll see if we want to add anything else to it. That's interesting. That's an interesting flavour. I wasn't expecting that. I wasn't expecting that. What does that remind me of? What does that remind me of? I can't think. So, another teaspoon of sugar. More pepper. That probably we'll take it up to about a tablespoon. It's a little bit like brown sauce. Not the brown sauce when we're making stocks and sauces and those type of things where we take stock and reduce it down to make a brown sauce. We're not doing that. But like a brown sauce is in like a HP sauce that you get in the UK. That's really interesting, is that? I think that's going to be delicious. So, cook that for a bit, let all the flavours infuse, and reduce it down a little bit. Just knock that off there. Because we want that pepper in. And then we'll strain it again, and we'll heat it up again, and then we'll put it in some jars. And we'll see how it turns. Now, different recipes put in different things, so I think it's a case of, I use that opportunity. If a recipe kind of says, use these spices, and another recipe says, use these spices, I kind of take that as a given to kind of use up what you've got in the cupboard. So I think you need some allspice berries in this, and you need some ginger, and you need some black pepper, and then I think go to town, add what you want. After that, I think those are the essentials. So anything else is like a bit of a good to go. Some said sugar, others didn't. So, but I think with that amount of vinegar in, it needs a little bit of sweetness, and the berries weren't sweet, so it's not going to be kind of that. I don't think it's going to thicken up too much, but we'll see. So we'll be back in a bit. So we have been cooking for 20 minutes, half an hour while I've been outside doing a job. I'm doing some tidying up for a change. So let's turn that off and let's get it through a sieve. Now it should, just need to get rid of the water up there. Now it should pass through the sieve pretty quickly because we've sieved everything. So everything should pass through the sieve, and the only thing that should be left is the bit of ginger and the spices, which we don't want. We want a, well, I want a smooth sauce. So it should easily pass through the sieve, and then what we'll do is we'll pause the video and we'll just give that pan a wash, because there'll be some bits of something in there, so we need to, there'll be little grainy bits in that pan, so we need to clean the pan, and then we're going to heat the sauce up one last time, which will just sterilise it, and then we're going to put it in some sterilised jars. So we'll see what happens. It's a bit thin. It's a bit thin. You just got to be careful, otherwise it starts splatting everywhere. There's two ways to do it. You can do it with the edge of the spoon like that, or if it's something that's already been through a sieve once, you can use the bottom of the spoon and just rub the bottom of the spoon and the bottom there. So we'll see what we're left with. Nice shiny sauce. It's a nice shiny sauce. We want as much of that to go through as possible, because there's body there, and we want a sauce with a consistency rather than something that's just thin and watery. Although I don't know what to use this sauce on. Anyway, we're getting some of that. So you can see that most of the stuff there is the bits from the spices and the ginger, and then let's just let's get it all through first, and then we'll give it a stir. And it's a little bit light, so we'll see. It's probably going to be the last time we can season it. So We'll see. So I'm going to get any more through there. Nope. So I'll just dirty another spoon. Nothing go there. We'll just use that spoon to scrape it off there like that. So bits that are scraping off the bottom of the sieve are kind of quite thick. I've just broken my own rule. So use that end. That's not too bad. It might thicken up when it's cooled, but we're going to heat it up one last time. So taste. It's a bit like a Cumberland sauce. It's a bit like a Cumberland sauce. Anyway, so heat up and then in jars. I'll pause. Right, so it's come up to the boil. Looks like it might just be a good consistency. So I've got a variety of jars. Need that somewhere safe so it's not going to drip. And everything's sterile. So let's do one big jar, one tiny jar for give it away, and then two smaller jars. Maybe I'm going to put that in two smaller jars and drip everything everywhere. Maybe I'm going to put that in two smaller jars. That's what I'm going to do. The only problem is you end up, you've got to judge how much you're going to use. You're supposed to put it in the cupboard for 7 years, and then it's supposed to taste absolutely amazing. But I don't really want to put it in the cupboard for 7 years, do I? So what we'll do is we'll use those two small jars at the back. Can go into the cupboard and just be forgot about. I just want a bit more around, and then we'll leave this one half full. So I want the lid, that one, lid on that one. They can go into the back of the cupboard and we can forget about those for 7 years. That's not going to happen. And then I want I'm going to make a mess of this. Yes, I have a feeling I will. Like that. So that can be a sample for a friend, and then the rest of it can go in here and can just live in the fridge. It's supposed to keep forever because of the amount of vinegar and sugar that's in it and the spices, but let's not believe everything we read, eh? Right, so I need to get rid of that somewhere in a second. Right. All very interesting, this, isn't it? Congratulations for sticking with it. And then we'll taste this tomorrow when it's cool, because things taste differently when they're hot and cold. Probably could have got away with another small jar, but I haven't. I've got them, I just haven't got them sterilised, so it don't matter. Wipe around there, like that. Lid on, and we'll see what it tastes like tomorrow. Right, let's have a look at it. It looks a bit thin, actually, but you never know. It's all about the flavour, isn't it? But I suppose that's not that far removed from the consistency of ketchup. You know, I just kind of maybe thought something a little bit thicker. But why did I think it was going to be more like a jam or a jelly? Anyway. It's good. That's good, is that? Vinegary, fruity, spicy. That's really nice. Hopefully we'll put this video up before it's the end of elderberry season. But I was thinking about this while I was swimming last night, and I was thinking that you don't have to use the fruit from elderberries. You could use blackberries. You know, bought ones. Picked ones, like forest ones, would be better because they've got a different flavour to them, more of an earthy flavour. But you could make it with another red fruit, in all honesty, and I don't think you know the difference. I think it's about the vinegary, fruity spiciness of it. It's nice, actually. I'll put the recipe in the description. And like cooked, nice on cooked meats type of thing. Nice with sausages, nice with cooked meat, nice with a bit of pate. Yeah, worth making actually. But I think you could use other fruits if you didn't want to pick elderberries or it wasn't elderberry season. But there we go. A success.